still muted. If you guys didn't keep me on track. Okay, so that was a research meeting. It was pretty interesting. A lot of that was over my head. But basically, I think what Marcus is doing is taking experimental evidence of head direction cells and trying to come up with theories of how they could be working to represent an agent in an environment. But potentially all the lessons that we learn here could apply to object representation as well. At least that's the idea. Sorry, I'm distracted by like messy desk. Not still muted, am I? Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is go back to building HTM systems. And so let me pull that up. And then I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to use the restroom. Component state. Here we go. All right. We had a pull request, so I was going to look over the pull request. Let me bring that up. Ooh. It was on my fork, I think, from David. Yeah, here's the pull request, in case anybody wants to look over it. Thank you, David, for putting that forward. And I've opened all these things I don't want to open anymore. Okay, here's our Trello board, which I think is up to date. I'm gonna go use the restroom. I will be right back. Okay. Never take your mic into the restroom with you. All right. So last time I was fighting with React. So the big decision I'm going to make here is whether we're going to continue using React or not. And David helped me with a PR. So before we make that decision, I want to check out this PR. And I want to pull I want to pull this and take a look at it locally here. TA building HTM systems. I don't have him set up as a remote yet, so it's David Trumid. Git Remote Add. Get at David Trumid. I know I should just copy and paste. .git. Did I not do it? Git Remote Add. Git Remote Add. What happened? Oh, you use your work GitHub. Oh, does that? So I should still be able to use it. Here, let me do this. Copy. What did I just copy? I don't even know. Let's see. I'm gonna paste it. Okay. It was just that part of it. So, but I should still be able to say git at and this is not a. This should be a slash. Oh, that's the. Why am I screwing this up so bad? Hold on. Guys, pay no attention to the monkey behind the curtain. I'll just grab it like this. I know this will work. Git remote add. Oh, I have to call it something. That's right. David Truman. That's what I need to do. Git fetch David. I don't know if I'm saying your name right, David, but look at all those. Okay, so now I want the one I had earlier. Git checkout. That. All right. What's it called? React. Dave/React. Did I have oh, I don't care about that. Okay, code. I'm gonna look at this. Bye. Thanks for dropping in. See you, Mark. All right, npm install, of course. I should still be able to see my, okay, so, oh, so you've got something called scrubbers. Let's take a look from the bottom up. Pages. Component showcase, so we're looking at numbers. Now it's a JSX file, which is, you noted in there, I should call them JSX files. Coding numbers, React component, and then we've got a state variable. I don't remember how much. Oh, so we've got a test area. Okay, let's get it, let's run it. Hopefully this works. Okay, encoding numbers. Excuse me. Ah, so this is the, all right. That is what I wanted. That is what I wanted. So I've got a few interaction issues here. Oh, that's okay. So if I want to change the N, that still works. I want to change the W. Let's change it down. I'll have to put some sanity checks on this because that's not right, but that's okay. It's 49. It's using 49 of the 50 bits to encode this. Okay. Yeah, the scrubbers are buggy. Let's see. That's cool. So you said that you didn't do a whole lot of stuff except sort of renaming things. So we've got a basic scalar encoder. Basic scalar encoder, simple scalar encoder. So did you just create this sort of alongside it so we could see? Oh no, yeah. Bounded scalar encoder. Oh, that's cool. I like that. I want to look at the diff too, I think. I want to get a better idea of all the stuff that was Yeah, there's no limits. So I can see how we could add that stuff that needs to be added anyway. So. So David, do you want to get on Discord? I don't think I have the channel open, but I'll open it up. It's up to you. HTM chat, live stream. Hello, yeah. So I am on Discord if you want to hop on. So there's lint, you added some linting. We removed the code syntax and moved it to, oh, that's just changing the name. So that's a bummer, we didn't retain the, see that should have been just a name change, not a deletion and an addition. So something's a little wrong with the diff, right? I mean, you should be able to rename these files and it won't show this big diff. I thought it would just say file was renamed. Diff won't work because of the file renames? It should though. I would think it should. So I think maybe usually Git will just show you the file renames, not like as if one was completely removed. And so you should be able to make changes to a file and rename it at the same time and retain the diff. Because it would be really nice to see what the difference is here. But here's the thing. Let's look at the code for this in encoding numbers. So I didn't even look at the other examples. I don't know if there were any more or if these weren't touched. Okay, so you just left these as they were. Oh, but I can see how, so I changed these values and it changed for everything on the screen, right? Hey, I see you're on Discord.
Hey, let me turn the music down.
Hey, I see you're on Discord.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, I don't know why the rename. I mean, I did the git rename, but it didn't keep the file references the same. I'm not sure why.
That's okay. I'm just checking this out. So how did you end up getting, so you made a global state page, right? Let me go back and see this. So encoding numbers is a React component, and then all the state that we change with those is in the state variable. That looks cool. And then you use set state. So in the render.
Yeah, so basically what I'm doing is in the render, I'm just creating just so you don't have to keep putting, like you could just put number value and then all that everywhere in the page you want, but I just did a local reference here. And you'll see what happened is you can send properties to that number value. It's just like a basic scrubber. So you can send like high, low, whatever. The only thing I'm sending right now is the value, which I don't actually ever change. But you can
I see.
On update is what I'm passing it. What I want to happen when the scrubber changes.
So the number value is a React component.
Yeah, I made that. That's kind of wraps the scrubber.
Okay.
But.
And that's where the D3 thing is going on.
Yeah, what would be a lot safer and more stable is if you didn't use D3 to do the scrubbing and you just had like a React component. Like they have React components out there where you can do the same thing where they slide back and forth and stuff, but
yeah,
I didn't bother doing that. So what that'll do is that useeffect, that's a React hook that allows you to make it like a functional component without actually having to say like React component class extend.
Right.
And then that'll just run once on mount.
And then I see. So this is like instantiating a React component in line as markup.
Yeah. So if you scroll down, you'll see there's another, like if you search for like parameter n, you'll see like in the fig caption for one of them it has one in there too, and then that'll update too as you change it other places. So any one of those that you change, it'll automatically update the grids.
Okay, so
Keeps them all in sync.
so that's including like the down and yeah.
Yeah, I kind of put a border around it so you can see and make it easier.
Trying to find it.
It's like the second to last one, I think, or last one.
There it is. Okay, so that's cool. That's definitely what I wanted to do. And it looks like so, but you're saying this is hacky because of the D3 interaction.
Yeah, because what'll happen is the D3 is keeping its own state basically, and it's not staying in sync.
Right.
So when you move it back and forth, because it's not in React, the state from React isn't updating synchronously.
So
it becomes like
I think this is the thing that bothers me, because I've used D3 a lot, and to make them interactive, I mean, you have to use the D3 interaction API because it's tied so intimately to the D3 display. I don't see a good way to put.
Not in this case, because the simple scalar or the basic scalar encoder, that's just a view only of the D3 component. So like if you did like that .GUI or whatever,
Yeah.
and there's a React for that too, and then you just use that and set state through that, it'll work perfectly fine. It won't have any effect on the D3 GUIs. If you need interaction directly from the diagram itself,
Yeah.
to actually affect state outside, you can just pass that method in from the page that you want it to do. It's just this weird scrubber that I'm kind of using that's not really attached to any diagram.
So, so tell me again. So if I wanted, let me go back to the page here. Let's look at just the first example that you had. Okay, this one. If I wanted to, like, this diagram could be anything.
Yeah, that's nothing to do with the inputs.
But if I wanted to hand it a handler that was D3 specific, right? I would do it at this level, like adding some type of handler here.
Yeah, like let's just for theoretical or whatever. Let's say in your diagram you had a button in each diagram that you wanted to open a web page or whatever.
Yeah.
And let's just say you didn't want to handle that inside the diagram itself. You could pass in like a handler what you want to happen when that happens. It's just in this case the basic handler is nothing really to change because it's all self-contained.
So then, for example, let's say mouse over. Like one of the things I'll probably want to do. Whoops, I screwed something up. One of the things I'm probably going to do is as I hover over one of these values, then I'm going to have that value essentially needs to be up. All the other child things need to be updated as well. So there's going to be an originating. I'm going to turn this music down a little. Hold on. You can go ahead.
So when you move that bar, all the bars should say 27.6 or whatever?
Well, when I move that bar, the key is when I move that bar on any diagram, I should be able to run custom code and get access to like the D3 event. Like I need. There's.
Oh, yeah, that's still inside the basic scalar encoder. Like all that's still D3. So when you handle like on hover and things like that, you could do whatever you want inside the React component. It depends on what you want to do. If you want to affect this global state of the page, then you just call, you just pass it in a set state handler, and you can do whatever you want with it.
But then, so if I pass it, let's say I'm just trying to think here of the right way I would try and go about this. So you said set state or a handler that. So what I want to do is if somebody interacts with this and it changes, I want a handler that gets out that can run outside of this. So like let's say on state change, something like that I could run, and then so I'll have a function like here.
Well, on there you would say on hover.
No. It might not be on hover. I mean, I thought that would be I would do the on hover inside the component. I'm trying to abstract that out, right? I don't want to know about. If I wanted to do an on hover, I would assume I would do it in here where I've got access to my D3 component. Where is it?
Oh yeah, but I thought you wanted to affect state in the page from within the on hover method.
It might. It might.
So what you would do is you pass like an on hover attribute to the basic scalar encoding, and then inside there when it does the D3 hover, if that exists, if someone passed in that property, you could also call that one as well as doing whatever you want in D3. So you're saying you want just a more generic set state where you can set whatever you want?
Yeah, I mean, these diagrams are going to get complicated. The thing I'm concerned with is I want React to get out of the way, and I feel like it's not. Because I don't really know what I'm going to need all these diagrams to do. I mean, have you seen my plan? It's really kind of heavy.
I've seen the hex grid example, or whatever, where you like change stuff.
Yeah, so I've got bigger plans than that. I don't even know where to go look. But there's going to be here. Each diagram is very likely going to have its own state, and they should be able to. Each diagram should be able to listen to other diagram states, and I could do that really easily without React getting involved. And I feel like it's really hard to set up using the React paradigms. But really, every different diagram should be observable by any other diagram on the page. That's the point. Yeah.
Yeah. No matter what you use, you're going to have to extract that state at a higher level. But I don't. I mean,
I won't. That's not true. I won't have to. If I mean, I can just have the state in the objects, the diagrams. I don't have to extract them into a higher level. To use React, I will. Right?
Well, so how, like, let's say you have 5 diagrams and you want the third diagram to listen to the 5th diagram.
Yeah.
How would you do that? Without hard coding the third diagram in the 5th diagrams.
Right. So I'd create all the diagrams and I'd say, call one of them and say on state change, run this function, and it's just going to call the other one and do whatever and set its state or do whatever it needs to do. You know, the interactive code can be at the page level, but the state can be in all the children. The page level really is just about the interactions between the components. We don't have to have any global state there unless we have truly global things that affect all of the diagrams, you know. But some of my diagrams depend on others.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're talking about the same thing, really. So in the like the 5th diagram, you would have to pass that on state change, and then in that on state change handler, you would have to update the state of the 3rd diagram.
Yes. Right? Oh, well, do whatever you need to do to tell. Excuse me. It may just be calling, you know, a set state function on that diagram, because usually it's just a dependency between a property dependency. Like when one diagram changes, the other one needs to know about it and update its view, or it might just render. It might just re-render.
Yeah, with React, you don't have to worry about that. It'll automatically re-render. Otherwise, you have to put in the handlers in the diagrams. You know, when does this state change? When it does change, what do I do? I update it. I mean, there's trade-offs for both of them. I think, from my experience, especially with React, it's a lot quicker to prototype something in jQuery and to get it working. But once it gets bigger and bigger, you start running into a lot of memory leaks, and once you set up like a solid foundation in React, it becomes a lot quicker to add new stuff because it's all component based. You know what I mean? You just drag and drop stuff in there. So I mean, both of them have different pros and cons. Not having experience with React, it may be easier for you to just do it in jQuery or something like that. You know what I mean?
Well, it's all D3, almost entirely D3. I'm barely doing any jQuery. It's completely like a D3 application. And the problem I'm having is fitting React into that because, or putting that application in the React framework. I feel like it gets right in the way of it. It gets right in the middle between the event handling and the execution that D3 expects to have seamless integration of. I have to put in this other component and add a bunch of handlers that pass certain things from that are adding abstraction layers that shouldn't be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I know it does seem like that on initial look, but as you use it more, it does.
I just don't. I'm not sure it makes sense for a D3 application because D3 has its own version of the DOM too, and that's the thing. We're trying to shove React in the middle there, and it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't think these two things work well together.
Well, D3 has its own. It manages its own actual DOM from the root element that you're rendering in, but React has an actual virtual DOM that it keeps completely separate from the DOM. And changes go through that, and then it does like a diffing algorithm, and then it only updates elements in the actual DOM that have actually changed.
Right, and so like the D3 interactions are tied specifically to like SVG type of events that occur there and all those properties. And if React is creating its own version of the DOM and there's all this SVG stuff, I don't know. I'm not feeling the React love. I don't know if I can keep doing it.
Yeah, I hear you. It's definitely a learning curve too. And for this scenario, it's just a basic, simple, like kind of blog with some interactive D3 things.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I know. So, and I mean.
Yeah, it is. Each page is going to have a subject and a bunch of diagrams that are all interactive and interact with each other. I started using React because like I said, I wanted to try and use what other people were using, but the more I use it, I mean, I understand how it can be very useful, especially when there's a lot of programmers involved and you have a big project and it's complicated and you want like a library of components that everybody can go use and they're all standardized, that can see that being super useful. Yeah, but for me, I don't think I want that complexity, but with just the pages that I want to make. What I do really want though is the loading, like the way that this is packed and loaded, and maybe that's just Next, Next.js, which is the platform sort of that's running the server and serving all the files. And so maybe I can take advantage of Next, but just not use the React part of it. That's what I'm considering. I'm considering tearing these out and just making them an HTML page, and I guess it would just be a script at the end that instantiates the diagrams that I want and the way that I want them. So we'll have like page level logic, an HTML page. This goes back to standard web development where you've got your code and your markup and all the widgets are sort of. I still want to keep those modular, so definitely keep all the diagrams modular so that they can be thrown into any page in any way. I certainly do appreciate your help, David, and working on that PR. I know you put your time and effort into it, but
not that much.
Okay, well, thank you anyway. And I don't think I'm going to keep moving with React. I just don't think it makes sense for me, and a small project like this. I feel like it's too much of a learning curve when I should be teaching people. That's what I wanted to try and do this for, and instead I keep learning. I keep getting stuck, learning things that.
Definitely, and if as long as you keep the pages somewhat more simpler, and try to break up very complex scenarios in their own pages, I don't think you'll have a problem not using React.
Okay.
Or with memory or anything like that.
So what I'm going to do, and you're welcome to stay on voice chat or and help out or whatever, any way you want to participate is. What I think I'm going to do is try and figure out if I can just basically convert these pages to not using React components, and then see if they serve and load. So I'm going to go back to master. Okay.
And you can always keep it a React app. Just don't Yeah, I mean keep the layout and everything React app, and then just
Yeah,
use.
because I kind of like the CSS loading that I had set up. That was pretty simple. So let me turn this back up a little bit. So yeah, I liked this, and what I would need to do, like for coding numbers, for example, this I wouldn't make it JSX.
Right.
I could still, well, I don't know if I could, I don't know if I want to do this. The layout, I did make a React component. Somebody helped me with this. I guess I could still keep the layout and the header. It would just be that I wouldn't be making this page a React component. It would just be, but then I also have to load HTML.
Yeah, you would probably just make it like a functional component where it was just a function that returns the HTML.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I could. Let me show you something else that, let's see. I know I've done this type of web app so many times where it's like basically just a really simple server that serves up static pages, and you know, and there's a basic pattern that you put, you know, if you put your HTML here with this name and your JavaScript here with this name, it gets loaded for you. And I've done that a bunch of times, and it's easy, and you don't really need you don't really need any frameworks to do it. I just have to remember
like
what.
a nodes, like Express.
Yeah, it's basically just Express, static server.
You just point static files to where the files are.
Yeah, and then if you, but you also have to make sure that the right JavaScript gets embedded in the right pages. And I think I basically did that. Okay, I'm gonna try and remember. These are all my projects just lumped together. I think these are the newer ones later. HTM, CPP. What was the last one I made that I did that with? Might have been Riverview. Okay, so I'm just going to look at this. This is that's not what I wanted. Oh yeah, I did use something called Lockmaster. That was like the static server I used for this, and JS doc. It's had documentation and everything. Package. That's right. I was using some other packages. These are probably way outdated now. It's probably not even used. Metalsmith. A year ago, 5 years ago. Well, 6 months ago, something. Add maintenance note. Yeah, so it's a super simple pluggable static site generator. Let me see if it's still like maintained or anything.
You could even keep the Webpack and the React there and just use functional React components as if you were using a regular HTML, and then if you needed to, you can integrate other React components and do both at the same time.
Yeah, I guess I could. I mean, you say functional React components, but
just a function that returns HTML instead of like extending a React component.
All right.
Like in like the scrubber, I think. Oh, but you got rid of it. But yeah, so instead of you just function that returns the HTML you want.
Right, not a class with a return, just the return function.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, I could just do this, export default. Well, it would be.
Yeah, there it is, right there. That's already a functional
Oops.
component. So,
Oh, it's already a functional component.
I mean, you don't need that return statement itself, but it's not affecting anything here.
Okay.
It could be an arrow function that just, but that's fine. So yeah, so it's already, so this would already work with the D3 stuff that you have, and a React wouldn't affect it.
Yeah.
And you could use React to update elements as they change, or you could just use D3 scrubber things that you made.
Got it. So I could still use this as my sort of global page, and just put the places where I want my diagrams to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just not.
Instead of putting a component, put like a div or whatever.
Yeah, a little div. Yeah. Whatever. Actually.
Or another function that returns that D3 element, and then you would just evaluate it right here.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. I guess I could just send it the parameters, or these parameters into the function, and it returns an encoder.
Yeah.
Diagram.
That's exactly what's happening right here.
Yeah.
It's just React wrapping it with some sugar, syntax sugar.
Right. Okay, so I want all the code for my encoder here, which I have. I'm just gonna, but I'm not gonna let React manage its lifecycle anymore. So I'm gonna keep this here, and I'll remove it as a React component in a minute. Actually, maybe I'll start with the stub just to make sure that it works. I don't think I need to. I'll ignore that. I'll ignore the stub. Okay, so I might create a function elsewhere that essentially I can call. I can call this. I can call a function like this, right? Something create encoder or whatever. Yeah, and then basically these are the things that I'm going to send into it.
Yep.
Of course, but they're not named parameters. I'll have to fix that.
Yeah, I would make it an object they pass in rather than actual.
That'd be better, yeah. And then don't need that or that or that. This is fun. Oh God. Create encoder and then that. Instead of this, I do need an ID as well. Hey CosmoQuest, thanks for joining. I'm doing technical programming work right now. I've got this like mutant web application. It's like partially React, and I'm like I'm trying to remove some of the Reactiness out of it so that I can not let React manage certain parts of the DOM that I want D3 to manage, so that I can manually interact with that a little closer. It's very like technical web development stuff that I'm doing right now. So I don't even have this function yet called create encoder. So that I guess would be here somewhere. And I reserve the right to change all these names. I'm just trying to get something done, and so we'll call this params. Oops. And this will actually, all right, now I gotta go, if I'm gonna make this work at all, I gotta go take all these out. Let me just copy them out. Just copy the whole thing out, the whole figure. Holy cow, everybody's joining. Okay, so I got a lot of viewers coming in from CosmoQuest channel. So let me give you a quick overview of what's going on right now. First of all, I work for a company called Numenta, and we research how intelligence works in the brain. And what I am working on, or what I'm trying to work on right now, is a website called Building HTM Systems, Building HTM.Systems, and currently exists right here, but it's not done. And so I'm working on converting this page of interactive documentation. So there's all these little bits here that you interact with, and code examples of how to create these things. These are encoders that create value that get pushed into biologically accurate neuron models. And so we're converting this from this type of interaction to another. So there's a bunch of different diagrams that we use to explain how encoding works. This is a cyclic encoding, time encoding, that are sort of halfway done, half complete. And there's even some more complicated stuff around spatial pooling that works pretty well, but it's still, I'm changing the whole framework of this site. I was going to use React, and I've recently changed my mind, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what the details are. But there's all these interactive charts. These are just an example of the ones I've created so far. I've got a ton more ideas on how to create these visualizations. And these all have to do with HTM systems, hierarchical temporal memory systems, and how you can construct them and what they do. And this is that's what I'm working on, this website. So if you want information about HTM, what it is, I made a whole series of videos called HTM School, and I talk specifically about binary arrays, how ands and ors and stuff work. So I mean, it's a little bit of an introduction even to binary computation. And then we start talking about sparse distributed representations, because there's so much to talk about that, which is like the memory system of your brain. It's representing neurons that fire in your brain, only 2% of which are active at any one point in your brain right now, as far as pyramidal neurons that are computing sensory input and imagining or whatever. Only 2%. That's a very sparse number. And this is really important, this idea of there being a sparse representation of meaning in your brain. It's crucial. It's really crucial to the theory. So then we talk about encoders, and that's the type of thing that I'm working on right now, that I was just messing around with. We were talking about encoders. This is sort of just an intro. It's not even really biologically accurate at all. But in biology, your encoders would be your retinas and your cochlea and your somatic organs. Then we'll talk about spatial pooling and a bunch of topics around that, and eventually temporal memory. So you can learn about all this stuff on this website that I linked in chat, and more. So the whole idea behind building HTM systems, which, let me, here's the GitHub also. I'm taking contributions if people want to help with this. All the information is right here. We're using an HTM called Simple HTM that's just got a few encoders in it right now. You can see an archive of all of the previous episodes of Building HTM Systems here, and then see all the issues that we're tracking in Trello. So, are you a doctor? No, I'm not a doctor. I am all of my experience, well, not most, the vast majority of my experience has been on the job. I am an engineer. I'm a software engineer, and I happen to know a lot about neuroscience because I've worked in the field for a while. But my whole career, I have supported scientists as a software engineer almost my whole career. So I think I understand science pretty well. I would call myself a scientist, even though I'm not a doctor. And I give you permission to do the same thing. We can all be scientists. You don't have to be a doctor to be a scientist. All right. So anyway, that's what we're doing. thanks for the comment. If you want, let me show you real quick my events page. You can get a real good indication of what I'm going to be working on. Today, it's this, to react or not to react. Tomorrow, I'll still be doing encoding diagrams. I want to try and get this done. I need to push through it. So, and then we'll have we have research meetings. My company, Numenta Researches Intelligence, we just had a research meeting an hour ago, and then I just continued streaming my work. So we do that like Mondays and Wednesdays, sometimes Fridays. And I'll be building HTM systems again. We'll be looking for opportunities to refactor, do sanity checks, and anything I messed up. I think it's a good idea to do that sort of thing. And if you're in the Silicon Valley area, we are having a meetup at Numenta HQ soon. Space is limited. It might actually be full, but if you really want to go, contact me. I think there's one more slot. So we're having a meetup, but you have to be in the Bay Area because it's in Redwood City, California. Of course, you could come in, but it's just a get-together, some people from the forum, which reminds me, we have a forum, HTM Forum. Please join us there if you want to discuss anything, or I don't have time to answer your questions here. All right, back to the drawing board, the coding board, whatever. I'm going through and commenting a bunch of stuff out that I don't want to try and deal with at the moment. And then we're going to take one component, one of these scalar components, and attempt to create it. So this, okay, I still should be able to do this. Should be able to do this. How can I? Okay. Export default simple scalar encoder. So I can just make this a normal class and not a React component. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to say extends diagram. And I haven't created a diagram yet, but I'm going to. I think I have a, maybe I won't have it extend anything yet, since I'm not really doing anything yet that needs it. But eventually it will extend a class called diagram. And the idea, one of my ideas, is to try and create a really nice site like this. I'm shooting towards Red Blob Games because I really love these interactive components. These are all D3 components that are all interactive. So I want to try and match this guy's style because it's really nice. So I'd like to try and create a document that looks and feels like this. That's sort of my end goal. And we're far from it, and everything's broken right now. So we're still really in the beginning phases, but I want to have this done by the end of the year. That's the plan. Okay, so we've got constructors. We don't have to call super anymore. I'm just going to try and get this down to something that actually runs, or that just renders. First it has to just render, and then we'll talk about how we're going to handle it, like create it. Let me turn this off, coding numbers. So basically we're going to have a function now that creates this. Simple scalar encoder.
Brains.
Hey, thank you for the follow, Casino Daddy. Hope you find some good gaming somewhere. So my scalar encoder doesn't take, it takes props. So I think that I just have to make sure that it has an ID, a bounded, a min, max value, in, and w. And where was the one I was actually working on? I guess it's this one. I hope that still works. Okay. Was this the one? Where's the one I was messing with? hold on. Coding, there it is. Why was I doing that one? I jumped straight to code example 3. So whatever, we're gonna try code example 3. So this function needs to spit out the HTML for this. So this is really create encoder HTML. And I also, at some point, after the page loads, I will have to instantiate like my actual encoder object. This isn't going to work. This has to return the HTML. And I haven't even decided that. Where we have that written is here in the simple scalar encoder in the render function, I think. There it is. So this is sort of the template for this component. And it's got some code in it, like mouse move, that I've already set up that I'm going to have to. And I had to do this binding thing. So this is going to go in, this logic is still going to happen in the class. So I don't need this. That's going to happen in the class. I don't need this style. So basically, I'm going to take this. This render doesn't do anything now. This is not going to render. It will have to. Actually, I might keep the render because that it will. That's when it'll actually call D3 and attach D3 to the DOM. Attach D3 to DOM here, and this is going to create the. This is all to be refactored. Okay, so this is just let me rename this something specific. Create simple. So I have to return. Maybe I don't, but I'll return. Now I have to take out anything. There's no substitutions in there. So I think this is okay. That should create the DOM. So none of these values will I be using to create the DOM. They will be used to create the object. So I don't actually need anything except for the ID. I think all I need is the ID to create this DOM.
How does it know, like one of those diagrams is bounded at 50?
That will be given to the class instantiation. So I'll instantiate a instance of simple scalar encoder with these parameters. This is just going to render the DOM that this encoder diagram will need to attach to it. It'll do that, right? So if this is just going to get me some markup in the page, after this whole page is loaded, I'm going to go back and instantiate this diagram, assuming that markup's there, and send it in the ID to attach to all these parameters, and it's going to instantiate itself on top of that DOM, or on top of that markup.
So wouldn't you just put a div in there and give it an ID or a class?
Yeah. yeah, exactly. This is all overkill. So all I want is div ID equals example bounded scalar encoder. Let me do that. So I'm just going to do the 1.
How are you going to handle changing the parameters as
so the diagrams are going to be, so I haven't figured out, like, there's going to be some global things on the page that get changed. I'm going to have reference on, so this page will have code that has reference to all the diagrams on the page. Because somewhere after this loads, I'm going to be able to run my JavaScript, which is going to create all these diagrams, you know, link them together if there are any dependencies, and then be observable. You know, I mean, you know, react to any events that come from those diagrams. So this is just the first diagram. It'll have, this is the HTML that it will link to. Once all of this DOM loads, which I guess I have to add a component did mount function and put this in a render in order to instantiate all my diagrams in one place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you could just use a hook. You don't need to convert it to a class.
What kind of hook?
A React hook. So you would just put a useeffect, and then put the function in there. So if you look at that PR, if you go back to GitHub.
Yeah. Sure.
And then just go to the number value scrubber.
Okay. Oh, this use effect here?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying, okay, so this is a function, takes params as like a constructor?
No, that's just the way that it works with the hooks. So you could just copy from the use effect, like from line 14 to 25.
Yeah.
And then put that in that page, and then just replace, you know, lines 15 to 23, whatever the D3 code is. And that'll happen on mount.
Okay.
That way you don't have to convert it to a class.
So, okay. Use effect, and that just defines a function. And I could do this, but this is just returning. So do I have to turn this into a non-functional class?
No, that's what the point of the hooks are. Like you can use it within a function. You don't have to convert it to a React component class.
Okay, so where would I put this? Here?
Right there. Yep.
Yeah. Like that?
And then after that curly braces, you just put comma and then an empty array, and that tells it to only run on mount.
Right here,
So
comma, empty array.
The second argument to use effect, basically.
Oh, I gotcha. Empty array. Okay, so this is specifying a function which they're calling an effect.
Yeah. So and then you just import that use effect from React library at the top.
Okay.
Or you might not even have to do it the way you set up now.
Well, yeah, let's see if it still loads. This shouldn't work at all, actually. I think I turned it off. Where am I? It's probably not going to work. I'm sure I've got something messed up. Yeah, so I think I will have to import it. So just import use effect from React, something like that.
Yep. And then just put it in curly braces. So, because it's not exported as default. Like if it was exported as default, you wouldn't need the curly braces.
Do I need
And
to?
it's all lowercase React.
Okay.
In quotes.
And in quotes. Okay. Like so. And this is in curly braces like this. Right?
Oh, there's a lag. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay, see if that fixed it. Yes, it did. Okay, so I'm not doing anything yet, so nothing's actually going to work yet. But we're getting closer. Simple scalar. Alright. So this is a dumb function. It's not what I'm going to end up having, but it... I don't even need the params. All I need... I'm not even using this. So I want this to be part of the encoder, actually. So I'm going to take this back. Part of the class. But if it's not a React class, I obviously cannot take advantage of the, you know, the DOM stuff. So I could just have a function that says get HTML or something like that, get markup. And of course, this is going to work. This is where I would put a templating language or something into place, but I'm not gonna worry about it right now. Like I said, I'll have time to refactor later. I want to see what this is going to end up looking like, and then we'll refactor. So I think, oh, this is great. I love the string IDs. Actually, I could just use this .id, right? I love the string templates and Harmony. I never used to have those. The other things, I might end up making some other things, values. This doesn't work unless I have that, though. There. Okay. So this doesn't exist anymore. We're not creating the HTML in a function like that. This is where we're going to create our encoder. Let's just start with one diagram. Oh, hey Hanny. Yeah, I invited somebody into my Discord channel. His name's David. He's been helping me with this application. Here's the link to the Discord. You're welcome to join if anyone wants to join the Discord channel. It's just me and David in there right now, but I am like I'm like halfway using React, halfway not. I want to use it where it makes sense, but I don't want to put it in the way of the D3 diagrams that I'm creating. So I think I'm going to have this like a mid-ground compromise where the pages are managed by React, but the diagrams are not. So I think we can make this happen. Simple scalar encoder, and then here's all my params that I wanted. I thought I had them copied. Whoops, not exactly. There. Okay. So what this needs to do now is actually would be better is if I did not send it an ID. No, it needs to know an ID, and it needs to have an ID. And if I call, when I call render on it, that will put it into the DOM. Okay, so
yeah, you just need an ID of the element that you're going to inject it into.
Well, when I'm creating this class, I'm giving it an ID. I think I'm going to make the assumption that that's the element ID. So it'll have access to it.
Right, but that's going to inject the SVG with the same ID, so it's going to replace the existing one.
Well, when I create this, the only thing that exists is that div that says with this ID. So I'm just splitting up. You know, the construction of something shouldn't render to the DOM. I don't think. At least that seems like a bad pattern. So I'm just making this two steps: create it first, then render it. Even if I'm using the ID that I gave it when it was created
Gotcha.
to render it. I guess it's okay. I mean, I could send the ID in here, but it's already got it. So, okay, so this is where we actually call D3. Yeah. Okay, so this is where we're going to actually call D3, and how are we doing it? There we go. Component did mount. I'm going to take that out. So probably all this stuff. I am going to have to. What did I just do? I did something weird. Okay. So the component did mount essentially I'm replacing with this render. The render has to generate the markup, put it in the DOM, and then call D3. Once the DOM is updated. Let's just see if this works. Hit markup. The D3 bit, here's the root. So here's the bit I'm not sure. What I could do, I'm gonna try and keep this simple for now. Let's not do the get markup. Let's put the markup directly in line, what I was sort of messing around with earlier. Right here. I'm gonna give it the whole SVG instead of that, just a div. Where did it go? I lost it. 1, 2. Here it is. Okay, so inside this div is where the SVG is going to go. And it actually was never supposed to have this ID. Oh, that's... Okay, I can fix this. We need access to the SVG, but we don't need to give it an ID. I can just select it in a different way. Okay, just a sec. My wife's pinging me for lunch. What the heck? You see, I'm almost rewriting React. Yeah. I don't know.
The only thing is when you change it from outside of these, you're gonna have to basically rerun the whole D3 initialization.
Yeah, because React touches it, doesn't it?
Well, not even. I mean, in order to do this, like, that's why it's kind of simpler in React because you're just using the properties of the class, so you can change it one place, it automatically re-render everything and update it. Whereas here, you're gonna have to listen on it and then call each one of these SVGs that you set up. You're gonna have to re-initialize those somehow.
That's what D3 should be managing the SVGs.
Right, but how does D3 know that it changed? And like if you change the N, how do you tell the other diagrams that the N changed to redraw the grid from scratch? Like reinitialize it.
Oh, yeah. They would either be observing the same data. I mean, that's the way I would typically do it. Is so the way I had been doing this was I've got like this observable data store, and each component has this little data store, and I just had it set up to attach to it, and if anything in that changes, it re-renders.
Gotcha.
But that way I can do what I want to do, meaning like if I know there's a diagram there, I can get its data store and I can listen to it. If it changes, then I'll change too, or update my data store, or both use the same data store,
Right.
So my wife wants to go
Maybe
lunch.
you're gonna have to recall that render stuff. Yeah, my wife too. That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I will have to recall the render stuff. I'm having doubts about this. I'm having doubts entirely about this. About everything I'm doing right now. I'm having doubts about everything. What's
the issue with the existing one? With the existing blog data?
The existing... Oh, okay, yeah. That wouldn't be a bad idea to go over. The existing one, the one that's here, building HTM systems. So you can see this code in the repo in the old source widgets, BHTMS, encoding numbers. And each one of these has an index, which is basically what I've been talking about. Like, it just has the markup. And these were all designed to be web-packed and delivered as static assets. So everything for this page is packed up in one little JavaScript, so I can embed it into a WordPress page. Because that's what this is. It's a WordPress page. And so all the code for this component is web-packed together with everything else on the page that it needs to run all these visualizations. Because that's the way it used to run. I mean, I started this off as a WordPress document. It evolved into something that became really interactive. And now I'm rethinking the whole thing. Like, well, maybe I don't really want to do this with a bunch of static assets that are being web-packed and delivered when I can just do it with a web server, And the thing that I feel like I'm still just overcomplicating everything. I think I need to maybe get a fresh view of how to do this and think about what is it at the bare minimum that I really need, technically speaking, technology-wise, to get minimum viable product, what do I really, really need? And all I need is a server to stand up, and I do always want to make these little modular widgets, which I've done before, which you've got a little bit of JavaScript, a little bit of markup. The JavaScript instantiates assuming that markup exists. That's really the only thing that I need as far as from a modular standpoint. You instantiate a JavaScript component, you tell it how it attaches to the DOM, and it assumes it has the structure of a template that goes along with it. So I need a lot of those, and then everything else is just like, here's a page of HTML that has placeholders for all those diagrams that are just DOM placeholders, and then one little script for each page that instantiates the diagrams and then hooks them together. That's all I really need for the whole thing. And I feel like I've done this before many times, and every time I do it, there's a new suite of JavaScript tools, because you do this every few years and you use a completely different suite of tools when you do it. And I've probably done this every few years over the past 10 years. I've made this same basic application. I even at Yahoo, when I worked at Yahoo, I was working on the same freaking thing. It was modular widgets, web, things that could be easily deployed. So I'm hesitating because I feel like I'm overcomplicating this almost to the extreme. First by trying to do it with React, and then by trying to undo it with React, and then reinventing the wheel. So I feel like I need to take a break. I need to stop because I feel like I'm going to do work that I shouldn't be doing. I'm getting warning indications going off in my head here.
I hear you. It seems like, I don't know, it kind of seems like the React way might even be cleaner, but you have a better vision of what you want it to do in the long run.
Yeah. I don't know. What? Sorry. My daughter doesn't have any school lunch money somehow. That's weird. Because I just like filled it up this morning. Okay, I need to figure out why my daughter can't eat lunch at school. Stand by. I swear I just did this. They have money. They have money. I think she just didn't check. She just assumed I didn't do it. All right. Hello, Chris Pox. I'm struggling right now. I'm questioning everything at the moment. I'm questioning what I'm doing. I know what I want out of this project. I have a really clear vision about the website that I want out of this project. Let's go over that. Let me tell you at least what the vision is, because I know that I'm clear about, and that I'm clear about. So I'll go over the vision here. If I can find it, BHTMS. I have this long document. Where is it? SP. Here it is, the whole overview. So here is the vision. What can I have to download this? These are all my drawings for building HTM systems. See, I've got, this is one of the diagrams that I want to create. I don't know what that is. I've got some notes about things. Here's another diagram about the mini column competition. I have one that's like got them all together. These are just like random notes, so bear with me. I think this last one was it. What is that? What even is that? I don't even know. I don't know what that is. This is what I want to look at, but it won't. Let's see if I can just make it bigger. Oh, there we go. That's all I wanted. Okay. Okay, ignore this stuff because this is stuff I'm probably just going to draw. But eventually we're going to get to this diagram. So this is where we start talking about spatial pooling, assuming we get through the encoder stuff. Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah. I use an iPad Pro and Notability for pretty much all these notes. So I want to have, first of all, a streaming data coming from the server. Actually, it doesn't have to come from the server, but for simplification, let's say that the server has it has some state, okay, and all the clients that are viewing this documentation is going to see this state change over time. We could also give the clients their own state, and they run their own HTM systems, maybe. But let's just assume the client has this streaming data, so it's going to get updated like every couple of seconds, and this thing is going to stream along. I think you might have seen this at the very end of this page. See that? So like this, every page is going to have this, and it just keeps going, just keeps going on and on and on. It's like a pseudo random stream of data, and this is the data stream that we're going to build an HTM system to analyze. So as we step through these documents, I'm going to come back to this data stream and continue to use it for all of my examples. There will be no agent controlling section of this. There's be nothing about agency until we get through spatial pooling and temporal memory, and probably do something with anomaly detection and prediction, because then we're going to do like anomaly scores and anomaly likelihood, and then we'll have to do some SDR classification if we want to do the prediction stuff over here. So that's going to be first before we even think about temporal or sensory motor integration or agency at all. There's really nothing I'm going to do towards agency. That I don't have plans on doing any agency stuff with this. We'll have to see. The research has got to get further along before I can visualize that. So anyway, that's the idea there, is this thing is constantly moving. So all of these encoders are constantly moving. Some of them won't be moving just because, you know, the weekend's not going to change if you're just moving through Friday. All these will be moving. And then, so all of the visualizations will be live, will be using this one stream live. Every single one. So all of the encodings, at some point we're going to get to a page where I'm talking about the encodings, and they're going to be using this one stream and analyzing this one value and its encodings over time. And so all of these are going to be updating every second or 2 seconds or something like that. Pop, everything updated. So that's one of the reasons I need all of these diagrams, and I need them to all be observing a single data source. The data source updates, they all update. If somebody updates something on the page, you know, a global slider or something that changes a parameter of the HTM system, all the diagrams also have to update as well. And the rest of this stuff is just details about the diagrams. There's going to be rich interactions. Each diagram will have rich interactions that could potentially change global state variables that could affect other diagrams. So as you interact with one diagram, you could be affecting the parameters of another diagram, which then needs to re-render. Different diagrams will have different states. Some of them I have like a little button. This was the one I already sort of showed you, but I want to refine this. I want to create a common UI for all of the controls so that it's intuitive, and also so that you can change them from the text. This is something they do in Red Blob games as well too, where you can, you know, there's triggers in the text, and I think that's really important. And see how the text itself updates. So as some of this state of the page, you know, this is a global state, flat topped versus pointy, right? As that changes, the whole page is going to need to update for that, including the diagrams and even some of the data displays on the page. And I really like the way this guy Emil does this, so I might maybe just start with his. You know what I could do is, all of his stuff is open. I could just start with one of his pages, one of his simple pages that has these type of interactions, and then try and put mine in place of his, you know, using the same interfaces that he set up for the user and the same diagram descriptions, because he's got a diagram class and he's not using React. He's doing it the way I want to kind of do it. So maybe I should look closer at what Emil is doing on this page. That's a possibility. Okay. Anyway, this is going to be some more drawings, and then the mini column competition. This is a big graphic. So we'll have a diagram that shows the combined encoding, and this again is moving. These are moving at like 1 hertz. And then we have to run a spatial pooler at this point. So we'll get to the point that the spatial pooler has to be in place, because we're going to pick active columns, active mini columns here. And we should be able to, again, here's another example of a global value. We've got an overlap threshold here that will change how active columns are selected. You know, and this is something that the user can control. There may be other visualizations of the spatial pooler on the screen that need to react to that. And then there's also mouse interaction. So when you hover over one of these mini columns, you get its viewport, or its view into the input. So these probably may be in the same diagram, but maybe not. I mean, it'd be nice if I could modularize these out far enough in a way that I could have one diagram that's showing just the potential pool and receptive field of a mini column, and another that shows the whole state of the spatial pooler and all the mini columns. When you mouse over one of them, that selects the mini column, and everything on the page that is dependent upon a mini column selection to display that mini column state didn't get updated. Here's another permanence value that will be a global value that can be moved in the UI. Is that it? Okay, that was it. So that's as far as I got. I haven't gotten to the temporal memory stuff yet, but if I get through the spatial, this is all about the spatial pooler, and I think this explains the spatial pooler pretty well. That's the wife. Where are we gonna eat? Okay. All right. I gotta go. Just a sec. Okay. Okay. All right, you guys. It is stream end time. Thank you for watching. Thank you again, David. Big thanks if you're still there for helping me talking through this and everything. Even if I don't end up using your PR, or if I don't even use React at all, I thank you so much for trying to help out. Nothing against React or anything. I really appreciate the help that I've gotten from everybody. So. I'm gonna cut the stream at this point, and I will be back online tomorrow, probably doing the same thing because I really want to push through this. What do my events say I'm gonna be doing tomorrow? I am doing again 9 to 1. So I'll be back online tomorrow working on the same thing. Hopefully I'll have a clearer head. You think React may be the path because that's one of the reasons React exists, is to do the things I'm trying to do. It may be the path, but maybe I need to rethink something to make this. I can't get the D3 interaction. Anyway, I gotta go. My wife's waiting. Take care. Thanks, everybody.